Legal Shield business that he works, along with what he's going to talk to us about today. And what he's going to talk about is a budding new, being recognized by more and more people as a significant element of learning, and that's learning about how the human mind works. So, Patrick, welcome. Thank you so much for putting this together. This is kind of like this tranquil sea here that we're looking for in our mind. Is that what it is, or Patrick?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, Patrick.
Okay.
Well, take it away, and thank you so much for coming and sharing.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This morning we're going to talk about our exit planning as well as this neuroplasticity and how these two kind of integrate. Okay? So there is a lot to it. Vision beyond the horizon. Isn't that what we want to do? We want to be able to see something over the other side so that we can do something that's going to get us to that place. Right? So our vision has to come into play there. So we deal with a lot of challenges with that. Our objective today is at the end of this half hour, we'll have to access to powerful tools and sufficient knowledge that you'll now be able to implement strategies that cause my business to grow and develop profit and value for a future owner. Because what we want to do is have some fun in life, isn't it? And go do things, lay on the beaches, like Hans was saying. So in order to do that, it takes what? Money. So a lot of challenge in getting to a place where we build our businesses to do that. Why focus on exit planning? These are some ideas I'd like you to ponder as we go through this and we start talking about how this neuroplasticity goes into this and where we're going with it. Mortality. That's the only thing we're guaranteed these days, isn't it? That sooner or later, we're not going to be here. Do you know anybody that has made it? Sooner or later, we're going to be going. So we have to plan for that. Why am I operating my business? I'm sure you've given thought to that. Any responses? What are you doing business for?
Well, I'm doing it because I know how hard it is to earn money in this economy and to save it. And it tears my heart out when I see people, not being able to protect and grow their lifestyle when I know it's possible.
It's possible.
So that's what drives me.
So it's a challenge.
Never lose, always grow.
Yeah, exactly. What's my demand on my business? Think about these things as we go through. What's the potential of my business? That's something that a lot of people never really look at. When you get into a business, many times it's because you either got tossed into it, it was in the family and you took it over, or some kind of situation where you came into this business without it actually being an active choice, that you investigated something to make a decision to choose that particular business. But you're in it now, and now you want to do something with it. So you have to look at that part of it. What's my future demand? And what is the value to the future owner? So sooner or later, when that day of mortality arrives, someone else is going to take over the business, hopefully, or it gets packed up, put in a closet, and it's done. How many of you would want to choose having it either for posterity or to be able to sell it to someone else? Wouldn't that be a better choice? So that requires a good element of planning. And that's where we're going to go with this. Neuroplasticity. My brain's ability to grow and rewire itself. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this neuroplasticity in recent years. And it all kind of stemmed from a lot of research that was done back in the 20s and 30s. And from that research that was done back then, people have gotten on the bandwagon and really gotten into this. And gotten into studying the brain and studying the different parts of the brain and how the brain actually works. Plastic, moldable, transformable, pliable, flexible, resilient, all of these things. My significant other had a stroke about 10 years ago. That affects the brain. Now, a lot of people have had strokes and haven't had any side effects from it. And then some people have had strokes and been completely debilitated, and of course others have actually died from it. But they've shown that the brain can heal itself. What does it take, though? That's the challenge. What does it take for that brain to change? What does it take for us to actively participate in that brain changing itself and doing more and more and more? Because that can happen. A lot of us think that when we grow old, we're going to start losing our mental capacity.
Not.
We are.
That's you. I'm not.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily true to the degree that it's been happening these days. There's reasons for it. A lot of reasons why the situation is the way it is. However, we can do something about it. Brain is your greatest asset and resource, isn't it? It runs your body needs it, and it needs your body also. One significant challenge that a lot of us in business have is dealing with multitasking. How many of you multitask? You realize that's not necessarily the best thing for you? It's not really the best thing for you. Why? It takes your brain and it taxes your brain. We were talking about this yesterday, about how rest rejuvenates times. And it's been proven that a person that's doing a lot of brain work, if they take time out periodically and let the brain rest, that they will get more done. So part of it has to do with our lifestyle. Too many hours juggling too many tasks. And we all have done it, one time or another. Sometimes we'll do the all-nighters. Sometimes it's just we have to meet deadlines of one sort or another, and we put in this mass effort to try to get something done. And we tax our brain. And we don't really think about that, what the effect is on it. But if we develop some new habits to help get our brain working more efficiently, it'll do wonders. It'll do wonders. Practical exercises. This is something I'd like you to do. when you get home during the next few weeks, work on doing this. Track your multitasking for 3 days. Write down what you do and how long you do it, to get an idea of how much you're putting into it, right? Now what I'm showing you here is one exercise of a few, because we only have a half an hour here. So there's more to this. At the end I'm going to show you a link that you can get some more information and follow up on some things. But this is just one element that we're going to talk about here, right? The multitasking. And I chose that one because it appeared to me to be one of the most critical that we can all relate to. So what can we do about it? We chart the length of time on only one task. So you get going on something. You make yourself a note. And if you have a little notebook or something for this, whatever you use, make a note when you start something. And then, as you're going through it, and all of you I'm sure can relate to this, you get going on something, and you're going away, all of a sudden this thought pops into your mind. Huh? Has that ever happened to anybody? And you're on the computer maybe, and you think, oh, I gotta do that. Boom, you switch over and start doing something else. And then while you're doing that, you see something comes flashing across the computer. All of a sudden that drags you somewhere else. So awareness is a big element of what we want to do here. Be aware of what you're doing. Now, I've been studying a lot of this stuff for quite some time, and I'm finally really, truly becoming aware of the fact that I am doing it. Even while I was working on some of this last night, the same thing. I'm doing something there, and then you get these stupid pop-ups come up on your computer. I block those things. Just get them out of there. I have attention deficit disorder, and stuff like that just drives me batty. So I get rid of it. But I recognized that I was doing this. I had to go onto the internet to do something, to get some information, and what happened? I looked at something, and I saw this, and it takes me over here, and I start doing this. However, the thought also came up, you're doing it. You're doing it. Now I have a choice. Now I can choose to keep doing it, or I can choose the more important activity or task that I'm working on. Then I have control of it. So that's what we're talking about here, is gaining control of it. So when you look at this from a place of what is neuroplasticity, activity of your brain begins to perpetuate itself. So the more you become aware of something, the more you become aware, the more your brain activity kicks in, and now you have more choices, active choices. And those are what's going to make the difference. Because as you start developing your awareness to a place that you're looking at, what do I really want to do here? What ought I be doing here? Now, what does that take? That takes having a plan. So if you don't know where you really want to go, any place is good enough, isn't it? And if you don't know where you want to be, wherever you get to is just as fine. It doesn't matter. So you could be doing anything, and it may or may not be something that's going to lead you to where you truly want to be. So that's where your plan comes in. Now, I'm going to include myself in this. What do most of us do when we think about developing our business plan? We say, I don't have what? Time. I don't have enough time. I have to keep it going. And because of the way we're doing things, yeah, we don't have enough time. But why is that? A lot of it is because we're doing all this multitasking. We're doing things that are robbing our time. So if we develop our brain to a place where it's going to be more efficient, we develop it to a place where it's actively conscious of what we want, that goal mechanism within us will lead us to the right thing. So developing that is the task. That is in this concept of neuroplasticity. Because you're actively using your brain, consciously using your brain, and your brain is doing the work and developing more contacts, getting all of those neurons going, and building itself, regenerating itself constantly. And the more it generates itself and the more you use it, the better it gets. And this has been proven. Years ago, the thinking was the brain just is this gray matter up there, and they didn't really know too much about it. But now, they know just information about all the areas of the brain and what they do. And that we can control those things. So these steps right here, these 4 steps, to track your multitasking for 3 days, chart the length of time on only one task, note the quantity of tasks with a duration of 15 minutes or more, and with no interruption. Track those. And what that'll do is that'll create an awareness in you of what you're doing. Because awareness is the first place towards action that we can calculate. So we become aware of what we're doing. We see that. Note the quantity of side steps due to multitasking or distractions. Just make a little tick mark on them. Whatever works for you. But keep track of that. And then at the end of this time period, take a look at it and see what that looks like to you. See where your time is going. Then when you look at your business and say, I don't have time to do a business plan, you'll see where your time is being soaked up. We all have 24 hours in a day. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We all have the same time. So it's a matter of what we do at that time that makes the difference. Maximizing our cognitive performance. That's what neuroplasticity does. So if you're using it, and you're actively engaged, right, that little exercise, do that exercise. That will do 2 things. It'll give you that awareness, and it'll also get your brain working on it. When you start doing those things, the brain's going to start going back and forth and feeding you information. We've gone through some of the other book that I was talking about with the Think and Grow Rich, and a lot of this ties right in there with it. Ties right in there. All of this work that they've done on this neuroplasticity really stems from a lot of that, and a lot of a gentleman called Maxwell Maltz, who I'm going to do some talk on next week. So it all ties together. Calm your brain. I used to, years ago, I used to manage a healing ministry down in San Diego. And we would do these 7-day retreats. And these retreats were silent. You couldn't talk. At the end of the day, 1 hour during the meal was conversation. And after that was silence. And it was amazing at the different things that happened with people over that time. Focus on one task at a time. Multitasking is toxic. Focus on the highest priority task. So again, as you become aware of what you're doing and how that's happening, then you're going to be more prepared to really figure out what is the most important thing that I need to be working on right now. So these elements here are very important. Develop my ability to select and inhibit information. So as things are happening to you, as you become more aware, now you have the choices to say, oh, this information I want to do something with, that's coming from me this way, I don't want that, you put it aside. You're cognitively selecting. And as you develop that, that is developing your brain. And it's making and causing your brain to be more effective. Increase my ability to ignore. That is a big challenge for me because of this attention deficit disorder stuff. So everything, it seems that I can pick up things from the peripherals, and whatever's going on, it comes in and starts messing with me. So if you have anything like that, that ability to do that, to ignore those things, you have to practice it. And like anything else, the only way to get good at it is to actually, in fact, do it. So these exercises that I'm showing you here, take these and physically do them. Find a place where you can be quiet for a while. Have yourself either a room or someplace where you can just sit and be quiet, even for 10 or 15 minutes. Be quiet. Just get rid of everything. Don't think about anything. And just let yourself be. Whatever type of meditation you may be aware of or want to learn, do that. That will help regenerate your brain. Implement doing one task at a time. That's my big challenge. One task at a time. You take that task, do it, get it done, and then move on to the next. Right? So these are the exercises here. Right? How we correlate this to exit planning. Developing an efficient systems and procedures. Right? So again, we go back to the time thing. Now as you begin to free up time, because now you're focusing on what you want, you're developing your ability to really think in a better way, then that's going to free up time. So now you can take a little bit of that time and dedicate that to beginning to do something about what you want for your future, for your business. Maximizing your time. Producing higher quality results. That will automatically start happening as you do those other exercises. Increasing the value in the present and for the future. So as you develop this in your business and you begin to get focused on your business and where you really want to go with it, then that's going to carry through. You're going to start coming up with different ideas as you free up your mind and you plug into your mind what it is that you really want. Instead of all the clutter we get into it, you get the real goals, the true goals, and the real objectives that you want to go after. And as you get those installed in your mind, your automatic goal mechanism starts taking over. And it'll move you into that direction. Peace of mind. Creating time for fun and relaxation. And that's really one of the things we really want, isn't it? Want to have some fun, want to relax and do some things. And it just so happens it does take money to do that. So we got to do something to bring it in. The power to create, regenerate, and celebrate. Neuroplasticity. Make the brain work for you. These are some resources you can take a note on. This is the one book, Make Your Brain Smarter. You can look that up on there. And a lot of this information came from there and quite a few other sources. Any questions?
If I choose to ignore my wife while I'm watching the ball game and it causes me problems, can I refer her to you?
Why, certainly.
Good.
Just tell her, hey, you need to talk to this guy. I'm relaxing. In fact, we were talking about that yesterday, right? The male comes in, sits down, because he's been pounding it out all day, and the wife says, hey, why don't you help me in the kitchen or something? He wants to rest. Why? He's to regenerate. Exactly. So call me or actually have her call Sue.
Marriage counselor, oh, great. The other business. Yeah.
I have a question, but I appreciated what you said about the 15-minute increment. That's very powerful. That's how I advise my clients to manage their time. Not the time to be managed, but how I advise them to experience their time. There are 96 15-minute increments in 24 hours.
Yes.
It works out to about 1%. So my challenge to my clients is to determine what percentage they want to give to the different activities
Yes.
in their business day and in their personal life. And that in itself is a very, very powerful tool.
Yes.
If you say 3%, that's 45 minutes. It doesn't have to be all at once, but give yourself 45 minutes to do X.
Right.
And then just letting your time out.
And to start being aware of what you're doing at the time.
Well, we've got to move into some announcements. If anybody has any announcements also, we have to have Amanda be able to reconfigure her place here for business at 8 o'clock. So does anybody have any announcements that they want to make? Mark?